won the Grand Prix, faced Cobley 9 times and made top 8 of that tournament. So some interesting stuff out there, a lot of decks. Everybody welcome, I'm Gavin Verhey here with Adrian Sullivan, and we're bringing you live coverage of the Star City Games Open Series here in Atlanta. We're going into round 2. The match is in progress. We have, on your left, Aintrazi. Aintrazi is playing mono blue, mostly mono blue, a little bit of black, deck with Tezzeret. It's kind of like his Grand Architect deck. It's got Tezzeret, Thrumming Bird, Treasure Mage, Grand Architect's Wormcoil Engine, a bunch of artifacts.
If you've seen his deck online before, I mean, basically the only real change to this deck, the mono blue deck that basically uses Grand Architect as a major mana engine, is that little touch of black, as Gavin was mentioning, for Tezzeret, replaces the way that the deck used Jace in the past.
Yep, you have Tezzeret and Creeping Tar Pit, I think, are the 2 main additions. Tar Pit being one of the cards that people have really talked about being important in black. On the right side of your screen, we have Sean Misko, who's just playing looks to be a pretty stock Boros deck. We've got some Mirran Crusaders, some Hero of Oxid Ridges. Other than that, you have all of the normal suspects. Only 3 Squadron Hawks and only 3 Stoneforge Mystics, which is kind of a weird number.
And I was going to say that his equipment, he's running, just for the equipment for his tutor targets, 1 Adventuring Gear, which is pretty normal, 1 Sword of Body and Mind, which sometimes is less popular, but it's still usually pretty staple. So he's going kind of with that, 1 Sword of Feast and Famine, and he has definitely decided to go with the new kid on the block, 1 Bone Horde, which is becoming very, very popular and very mainstream. But, you know, particularly if you put that on a Spike Shot Elder, wow, that's just kind of crazy.
It is incredible. So, looks like they're still in game 1. On Ali's side, I think we've got a Wormcoil Engine. Oh, there's another Contagion. So we have 2 Contagion Engines now, and I think that's a Wormcoil Engine token. Or I think it's a 5/5 Wormcoil Engine token. I think it's been Tezzereted at some point. Okay. And we caught it right as Ali was picking him up. So Ali gets the first game on the back of double Contagion Engine, and just like you see in Limited sometimes, that card can just steal games.
Absolutely. A little bit earlier in the game, one of the things that happens, obviously, I've always been a proponent of rogue decks, and Ollie's deck here, if you've been paying a lot of attention to the internets, you'll know that that this deck is real. You'll know that this deck exists. But if you haven't, you might not recognize things like Grand Architect, which a lot of people might have familiarity with in Limited, makes your creatures have +1/+1. And a little bit earlier in the match, before we cut to this match, Sean Misko attacked with a 2/3 Step Links, only to have his Step Links die in a key moment to the Treasure Mage because Grand Architect was there, making it a 3/3. And, you know, Sean kind of kicked himself a little bit there, and he finished off after combat the Grand Architect with a Lightning Bolt, but it was too late to save the Step Links. And as you can see right now, you know, they're sideboarding, but previous to this moment, previous to that Wormcoil Engine getting in there and getting in some life, Ollie was actually pretty low on life, and that need to use the Bolt to finish off the Grand Architect kept Sean from being able to drop one of his 4-drops. So it's very possible that that moment in the game might have been why we're seeing Ollie with game 1 instead of Sean.
Right, or potentially just being able to keep your Step Links on the battlefield too. So I think the players are going to sideboard here. It looks going to Ali's sideboard. It looks like he's got a Duress, probably not coming in.
Right.
Contagion Clasp, do you think that's a card to bring in
I think Contagion Clasp is incredible. I mean, versus Step Links, versus the Plated Geopede. I mean, there's other things you can get, but getting those 2 is really good.
Wormcoil Engine seems like a pretty obvious card you want to bring in.
Absolutely.
Let's see, 4th Tumble Magnet.
Yep.
Yeah, 4th Tumble Magnet, a good choice. Necropede is a really interesting little card that's pretty much almost just for the beatdown matchup. So you put it down, and it blocks one thing, puts a counter on another thing, beats fetch land triggers because the counter sticks around.
I mean, if you're somebody that's looking to find an answer for Boros, Plated Geopede and Step Links, if they're both on the table, 1 Necropede hitting play is just disastrous.
Yeah, Necropede seems like a really nice sideboard card here for Ollie. Plus, it gives him the first poison counter, which can be very relevant with those Contagion Engines and Clasp to finish him off.
Yeah.
4 Flash Freeze. We were talking about this last night when we were playing some games, Adrian. We don't like Flash Freeze against Boros that much.
Not really. I mean, if you look at a Boros list, right, most of the deck is white. I mean, they only have usually 4 Lightning Bolts. Sometimes they might be running Arc Trails main, but then you've got a few creatures that are often on the table before your Flash Freeze is even ready.
Right.
Hero of Oxid Ridge and Koth of the Hammer, if they're running, you know, one of those 2 cards, you can Flash Freeze that, but the other stuff that happens in the game before then can have you dead.
Yeah, and there's only 15 red spells in all of Sean's main deck, so I doubt we'll see that there. And then 1 Ratchet Bomb, finishing off the sideboard for Ollie, which we'll probably see come in this matchup.
Yeah, and that's his 3rd Ratchet Bomb. So, I mean, he's not running a Singleton just as a miser. He's just using this to make his Ratchet Bombs even more effective.
And then coming out, Mindslaver is probably not that great here.
Mindslaver seems very slow.
Mindslaver probably comes out. Do you think any of the creatures come out? Thrumming Bird or Enclave Cryptologist?
So people that aren't aware of this deck completely, the creatures are all blue except for one Wormcoil Engine, which is tutorable. So it's 3 Enclave Cryptologists, 4 Thrumming Bird, 3 Treasure Maid, 4 Grand Architect, and that 1 Wormcoil Engine. Thrumming Bird essentially is, in my mind, a card that he uses to push his advantage over the top. Well, in this deck, he doesn't have the advantage to begin with. And so it's probably going to be coming out. Besides that, I mean, Contagion Engine. I love Contagion Engine, but it is very expensive. I could see him dropping down to 1, and that's 3 slots for 2 Mindslavers, 1 Contagion Engine. The 4 Thrumming Birds is 7 slots, and then you could get in 1 Wormcoil, 4 Necropede, 1 Tumble Magnet, 1 Ratchet Bomb for 7 slots. I'm thinking that that's his in and out.
So you think you leave the Contagion Clasp in the sideboard?
That's actually including the Contagion Clasp.
Oh, that is?
Yeah, 1 Clasp,
no, that's just 8
1
cards.
Engine. Ah, okay, I see. Yeah, so we need 1 more card.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 Tezzeret might go. I mean,
maybe
it's hard to say.
Not quite sure. Maybe we're missing something. Maybe he doesn't bring everything in. I don't know. I feel like you need Contagion Engine in this matchup. It seems pretty important to me to be able to Wrath them. Even if it costs 6, it generally is a Wrath. It kills all their Squadron Hawks. It kills all their Geopedes, all their Step Lynxes.
I like it as a tutor target, but it being in your opening hand can be really rough.
Sure.
Though to be fair, Grand Architect can make it ramping up to 6 mana quite easy.
Yep.
Now they've finished sideboarding,
yep.
and Sean is going to be on the lead here.
Yep.
And
real fast, looks like Sean's sideboard. The cards he's going to probably bring in here. Maybe we'll see a Divine Offering for sure. Divine Offering for sure. Arc Trail is his only other card if he felt like Ollie was going to leave in some of the low guys. Other than that, not a lot to offer here. Perilous Mirror, Mark
actually,
Mutiny.
I like Luminarch Ascension.
You like Luminarch Ascension here?
He does not have very many ways to attack. You know, if you go a turn 2 Luminarch Ascension, those creatures like Necropede are suddenly forced to attack instead of block.
That's right. Inkmoth. No. Inkmoth Nexus and Necropede don't even work against it.
Yeah, they don't even do damage.
Yeah. Not only do they don't do damage, and let's see. Yeah, they don't even do damage. So because it's infected damage.
Here's the question. Actually, is does Luminarch Ascension trigger off of damage? And is poison damage trigger it?
This was a big deal when Kibler was playing his Infect deck. Not in LA, but a couple weeks back.
Okay, turn 1 Goblin Guide.
Yeah, turn 1 Goblin Guide from Sean, followed by a Preordain from Ali. Looks like he's going to pick him back up. And Ali opting for the turn 1 Preordain, a play that you don't see quite as often. I think as a lot of players have started to pick up the turn 3, turn 4 Preordains. So it looks like he's digging for something. Sean serves with a Goblin Guide, and Ollie flips up an island, getting a free card.
I think in this matchup, a turn 1 Preordain is more sensible, just because sometimes you might not have time to do something later on. We've got a Mystic, which is probably going to get a Sword of Body and Mind. It might get a Sword of Feast and Famine.
I like Feast and Famine here, although I guess the protection from blue is very relevant in this matchup.
Protection from blue seems pretty impressive right now for this deck.
Blue is pretty awesome. Looking over Ollie's hand, I think we see a Contagion Clasp. Let's see. So yeah, he did get Sword of Body and Mind.
Yeah.
Looking over his hand, I think we see Contagion Clasp, Necropede, a couple nice little anti-beatdown cards we might see enter the fray here.
Now, one of the things to notice, with 4 Tumble Magnets, because I'm going to assume Ali Aintrazi brings in a 4th Tumble Magnet versus Stoneforge Mystic, equipment really becomes less good.
Definitely. Let's see, turn 2 Necropede, passes it back. Yeah, Tumble Magnet is just a card that looks so innocuous, but when you see it played against the equipment decks, it just shuts off their sword, their crucial card that they've been waiting on. So it looks like Sean actually brought in, that's Mark of Mutiny, right?
It does look like that.
Yeah, so it looks like Sean actually brought in his Mark of Mutinies, which could be pretty strong here. It can take a Wormcoil Engine potentially if put out to block. And that's, once again, maybe the strength of not knowing what your opponent has. You don't know that Ollie only has, 2 Wormcoil Engines to be able to steal.
Right.
Which is a big difference.
And, one of the things that it can be great as like a super-powered Falter, but there are so many times where this deck, it kills with creature damage, right? If it doesn't have a burn package to back it up, sometimes that mark will just be, they'll be too far out of range for it to be a kill. So we'll have to see if it ends up being useful in this match.
Definitely. Looking over Sean's hand, he doesn't have a ton of options. He's got that sword, which is going to come into play. Okay, so he gives
him a land.
Yep, Dark Slick Shores. So Ali has access to black for sure now, and Ali's plenty happy to block with Necropede, and it looks like probably trade up with the Goblin Guide.
Looks like it.
He could try and make that Stoneforge Mystic a non-threat. So the thing he can do here is he's got his Contagion Clasp in his hand. So if you put a counter on the Stoneforge Mystic, you can play the Clasp next turn and then proliferate. But yeah, I think you have to kill the Guide because the Clasp is going to put a counter on something anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And the other part of it is you might not actually have the time for the Clasp to take something fully out. But him having the option to have like an active Mystic, so if he top decks another equipment, to be able to activate it twice. It's a very small chance, but it's one of those things where he can save a little bit of mana perhaps, and you want to just cut that ability off from having an attacker and have the Mystic active.
Absolutely. Alright, so it looks like I was going to go for another Preordain here. Now we see the more common turn 3, turn 4 Preordain, something that Jerry and Drew Levin and AJ Soccer and a lot of those guys have really talked about is you really want to save your Preordains for the mid-game so you know what's going on. Alright, and that Dark Slick Shores is going to come down for Ali. I think Necropede.
Another Necropede.
Yep. And looks like Ali's hand right now is he's got a Contagion Clasp, an Inkmoth Nexus. There's this card that looks a lot like Sword of Feast and Famine in his hand, but I can't quite make out what it is. Maybe it's Everflowing Chalice. I'm not completely certain. All right, so Lightning Bolt comes down for Sean.
And I believe that was his only non-Mark of Mutiny spell now. There might be another bolt in there, but I thought I only saw one bolt previously.
We'll get another glance here. Yeah, it looks like he's got 3 lands Mark of Mutiny. Now, granted, he's got a Teetering Peaks, which will help get in some damage. But he's going to equip that sword, peeks it, and attack for 4, getting a 2/2 Wolf and milling Ali for 10 cards. But Ali still has a lot of action going on.
FX tapped out guy? No. Okay.
That'll happen tomorrow in the Legacy portion. But for now, not too much happening when you're tapped out. All right, Ali mills 10 cards. Looks like Tumble Magnet, Preordain, Mystifying Maze, Creeping Tar Pit, Contagion Engine, Wormcoil Engine, Ratchet Bomb, Necropede, Dark Slick Shores.
We saw a Contagion Engine go away, which means that if he went down to 1... was that a Wormcoil you said?
And a Wormcoil also.
Wow, so his Treasure Mage got its ability to get good things halved.
There's the Treasure Mage off the top.
There it is. I mean, he probably has the other Wormcoil Engine. He might not have the other Contagion Clasp engine. Sounds like you're pretty comfortable with him having it. I'm not as sure. We'll have to see what comes with his Treasure Mage.
I wouldn't be surprised if he sideboarded it out, but at the same time, I feel like leaving 2 in is probably right. Note that I don't think you can even play the Treasure Mage here because the protection from blue from that Stoneforge Mystic is pretty relevant, blocking him out from blocking. Okay, so Ratchet Bomb is going to come down for Ali Aintrazi here, and I'm sure it's going to tick up or potentially just deal with that, with the Wolf tokens sitting on Sean's side of the board. I think Sean, was that a Stoneforge Mystic he drew there? Yep, Stoneforge Mystic off the top for Sean Misko. So, I mean, Sean can potentially tutor up his other sword and really start going to town on Ali here. So, let's see. Yep,
there's an Inky.
So the Nexus is going to block Stoneforge Mystic, making sure that that sword doesn't connect and taking Mystic down another point. So what can happen now is if Ali plays his Contagion Clasp, he can neutralize the power of Stoneforge Mystic and then be able to Ratchet Bomb away the token. But what he doesn't know is Sean's about to deploy another Stoneforge Mystic, which is going to be a huge problem.
And this is almost certainly going to get that Feast and Famine. And he might just sandbag it. I mean, that Ratchet Bomb can build up to kill off that sword, and he doesn't want to have another sword out there necessarily. It depends on if he thinks he can get the damage in before the Ratchet Bomb and Ali's other resistance comes into play. Now, because of that block definitely kind of signals that he doesn't have any answers that might be relevant to the board right now. Right? He doesn't have an Into the Royal, and we have the deck list, but Sean Misko does not know the exact list and sideboard that Ali is playing.
Yeah, I think in this particular juncture, you have to throw that sword down because if Ratchet Bomb hits 3 and starts blowing up your swords, it seems like you're going to be in a pretty bad position anyway, and I think you just have to be pretty aggressive here. You've got that Mark of Mutiny to take things if the game goes long. If he decides to Ratchet Bomb away all of your swords, then your creatures are still standing. Ali's already shown he doesn't have a lot of good answers to the next couple attacks, but we'll see what Ali's able to find here. Interesting to note is those Necropedes out of the sideboard are actually pretty awesome here because they can also block the sorted creatures, which is a big deal. hadn't really thought about that, but everyone's trying to get around the sword's protection abilities by playing cards like Wall of Tanglecord or Necropede or Perilous Mirror. We have Perilous Mirror sitting in Sean's sideboard, so all right. Let's see. So, yep, and the sword's going to come down for Sean Misko, so he's going to have 2 swords active next turn, and Ollie is looking for an answer. Ollie opts to not take up his Ratchet Bomb, so it looks like he's going to keep it just to deal with those tokens.
Right. Now, at this point, with that Ratchet Bomb not being ratcheted up, it's basically because he views the creatures on the table as more important than that equipment. And so his plan has to be find some way to deal with these various different creatures that are out there. A Clasp looks like that will... What is it, at 0-1 now?
It puts it to an 0-1, although if he equipped the sword next turn, it would go up in power.
Right. And what do we have besides that? Maybe another Necropede would be really valuable if he has it. Thrumming Bird. Wow.
So the birds are still in there. And the birds are not so impressive against Sword of Body and Mind, which is going to be a big issue. Sean can go equip both, probably both swords to the Stoneforge Mystic or the Worm or the Wolf token, and serve in for 6, dropping Ollie down to 4, untapping all of his lands if that's relevant for any reason. I think he also might just have it with that Mark Immunity. I haven't done the math, but that's 6. 7, 8. Maybe he can only drop him down to 1 here.
Let's see. I'm doing the math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, with that Ratchet Bomb, that takes care of one of the wolves, so
right.
a Mark won't make it happen.
Correct. But it still forces him to blow that bomb before he would like to.
Absolutely.
And then I guess Thrumming Bird is a 2/2, but I don't know how relevant that really is right now.
Okay.
Yep, and so he equips the sword over, which kills off the Stoneforge Mystic. Which kills off the Stoneforge Mystic that had counters on it. Now he's going to serve in. So that Mystic is guaranteed to hit for 6 here. Question is, what does Ollie want to do? Does he want to throw the Thrumming Bird in front of the Wolf token? Does he want to Ratchet Bomb away the Wolf token? I feel like maybe his line of play here is he has to take 8, drop to 2, and then Ratchet Bomb away both tokens.
Yeah, I think that's it as well. And that looks like that's what he does. He's going to also have to discard a card of some kind, but for his sake, he hopes that he has something in there that's not that great.
Sure. Looks like Grand Architect, Treasure Mage, Tumble Magnet. I do not see another Contagion Engine or Woundcoil Engine in that set.
Right.
So it looks like his hand is Chalice, Thrumming Bird, which is getting discarded, Treasure Mage, and Contagion Clasp. So that Thrumming Bird can actually do some work the next turn by doubling up on Contagion Clasp. Also upping the counters on Ratchet Bomb if he wanted to deal with Stoneforge Mystic somehow. But those double swords on Sean's side of the table are proving to be a problem. Maybe Ollie is wishing he would have had a way to deal with that now. If he had been pumping up that Ratchet Bomb, those swords could be cleared off the board.
Kills the wolves.
But, okay, so he's going to take down the wolves.
And with that Mark in Sean's hand, there's actually, I think, pretty much... I don't think, given Ollie's hand, that there's anything that can be done. Even if he were to cast a Necropede, I think it would be over.
Because he can take it, it flies, and then equip the swords to it. And, alright, so Ollie goes for Everflowing Chalice for 1, which the Thrumming Bird can proliferate up to be 2, so it's almost like a free spell. Just cuts off some of your colored mana, and that's it.
I mean, at this point, though, he just does not have enough to survive. That Thrumming Bird can't block the Pro Blue. Even with the Contagion Clasp in his hand, and even with using the Thrumming Bird to get more off. Does he have 2 Contagion Clasp in hand, or just 1?
I'm not sure which card he drew this turn, but even then...
It's just still not quite enough.
Even then, yeah, he's just going to get Mark Mutiny, then the swords are going to get equipped to it, and that's going to be game. But Ollie doesn't know that yet.
Yeah.
Okay, he just picks him up.
He's looking at the table. Doesn't even matter if the Mark's there. I think that he's dead even without the Mark.
Yeah, because the Contagion Clasps can't deal with the Stoneforge Mystic, and yeah, so the score looks like Aintrazi won, sort of Body and Mind won.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
that card is amazing here.
Just with the table itself, with Thrumming Bird and with Contagion Clasp, he could only get the guy down to a 3/4 with those swords, and he was at 3 life. And Pro Blue meant that Sean's table would beat Ollie's hand plus table.
Right. It's very possible there that the right play for Ollie was to kick his Ratchet Bomb up to 3 counters to deal with those swords. But the problem is he didn't know Sean had no more action. So I can understand. I mean, I would have done the same thing. I think keep the Ratchet Bomb down. I might have ticked it up to 1 and potentially tried to take off that Stoneforge Mystic. But yeah, still those swords were a big problem for Ollie. And looking at his list, I mean, it's kind of Tumble Magnet or bust. He has the magnets to deal with the swords. He obviously has Ratchet Bomb, which can be good if you have enough time. But other than that, he's got 1 Mystifying Maze he can use. I don't think he brought in Duress.
He basically has to go over the top with Wormcoil engines, and other than that, have Tumble Magnet, which is his primary way of handling it, take care of it.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a ton of good options, but if he draws them, if he draws a Tumble Magnet, that'll really help him out. On Sean's side, he brought Mark Mutiny, which I think is an interesting choice here. I don't know if it's bad. It certainly was going to be okay for him that game, but it seems like, especially on the draw in this matchup, you just have to have a good enough hand, and I imagine he's going to be sideboarding it out.
Imagine
on the draw.
He had moments of open mana. Like, the Mark of Mutiny definitely would have saved him if a Wormcoil engine hit the table. So it worked as a good insurance policy. But as it was, it could have been a card that said do nothing, and he would have won that one. Where, you know, I think that I still guess I'm not excited about Marks in this sideboard. Now, he did see a Wormcoil engine in game 1, so having a Mark, it's 4 cards like Wormcoil engine. That's why he has it in the deck. So, I mean, maybe he's just going with, you know, the basic plans that his deck usually presents for him.
I mean, and he doesn't really have a good answer to Wormcoil engine, so I understand why you would lean on Mark in a matchup like this. It's just, especially on the draw when you have a quick start, it's a rough card to have in your deck. I mean, those Divine Offerings are definitely coming in and going to be crucial, but alright, so going into game 3 here of the Ollie Aintrazi versus Sean Misko matchup. Ollie is on the play for the 3rd game, and he leads on an island, and are we going to get a Preordain? Yep, Preordain for Ollie here. And Ollie finds another Preordain and an island, leaves them both on top. Draws, leaving that island there, not only to get a land, but in case a Goblin Guide is on the other side of the table. And is there a guide? Yep, there is. So he placed its cards wisely, and now he'll get a free card off of it.
Yep.
Alright, so Ollie gets the land and gets the opportunity to draw Chalice here, or Necropede. Alright, looks like Necropede comes
Necropede.
now. So that can trade off with the Goblin Guide.
Second Goblin Guide?
He has the option to do so. We'll see if that's what comes down for Sean Misko.
Spike Shot Elder? Lightning Bolt? I think those are the cards I see.
Now, you've played a lot of red decks here, Adrian. What do you think the play is on this turn?
In general, in the early parts of the game, even if you're not being as mana efficient, I usually like to put the Goblin Guides down, because they often will just get in so much damage that even if you could have been more efficient, you put your opponents on their heels, and then your backup plan can be the other cards.
Yeah, I entirely agree. I mean, you want to get as much damage in with your early threats as possible. All right, so he attacks, flips Tumble Magnet twice off the Goblin Guides, and looks like Necropede is going to likely trade with one of them.
I see a Thrumming Bird. I don't think it's going to trade. I think he's going to make them both weaker.
That bird seems so slow right here, though. And if Sean...
It's the same damage for him either way, right?
Well,
what is he going to do? Is he going to kill, or is he going to...
But if Sean has a bolt, like, it just makes that plan so much worse.
Actually, not, though. It's the same amount of damage, right?
I mean, it's the same amount of
and you can
damage,
also get double activation off of the Goblin Guides.
But it's 2 creatures, which is a big deal when your opponent has swords in their deck. And yeah, Ollie opts to kill off the Goblin Guide that he blocks.
Now we're going to see, I think I see a Tumble Magnet in his hand.
Yep.
And I think I see a Chalice. Magnet comes down.
Or, no, Grand Architect.
Oh, Grand Architect. Wow,
which is going to fuel a Chalice.
There we go. The ability of that card to be able to immediately tap for mana is just incredible. For people that played a million years ago, Worn Power Stone used to be a card that was actually really powerful.
Yeah.
And this is Worn Power Stone on crack.
Yeah, it's quite quite a nice card to have, and very good in a deck like Ollie's that's built to abuse it. But Bolt for Sean will temper that, but that still takes care of 3 damage that would be headed toward Ollie's life total or creatures.
Yeah. I believe I see Preordain, I see Treasure Mage, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Treasure Mage sitting in Ollie's hand.
Treasure Mage facing off versus Goblin Guide is just really nice.
And Ollie just drew Contagion Engine, another card which might be nice here. And so he goes for a Preordain, finds Preordain and Darkslick Shores. And Ollie has to figure out how bad he wants to find a land that comes into play untapped here. He's perfectly content keeping them. And he's just going to play the Shores and probably that Treasure Mage. Yep, Treasure Mage comes down, which will shuffle away that Preordain that he left there. But he's happy just getting the land. And Wurmcoil Engine into Ollie's hands. So Sean, let's see, looks like Spike Shot Elder. I think that might have been a Divine Offering he just drew.
Yeah. What he really wants in his deck, he has main deck Journey to Nowheres. He really wants a Journey to Nowhere for that Wurmcoil Engine when it hits the table.
Yeah, because once again we're in this situation where not even Mark of Mutiny would get the job done. I mean, you can mark it, but then he just passes the engine back, and then Ollie just serves him for 7 and gains 7 life. So he has to have a way to deal with the engine as opposed to just steal it for a turn. When you're on the draw, the game dynamic just changes entirely.
Yeah.
And Sean is also looks like he's cut off of red mana here, so his options are just being limited because of the number of red cards in his hand.
You saw a minute ago he was rubbing his head as he was trying to figure out what to do, and that did not look like he was running a bluff there.
No. And yeah, he was honestly uncertain, and he decides to lightning bolt away that Treasure Mage, serving in with Goblin Guide and giving Ollie a free island. So now Ollie is on 6th land. Sean knows he gave him the 6th land, and now it's in Ollie's head: do I cast the Wurmcoil Engine? Do I not cast the Wurmcoil Engine? What do I have to be worried about here? And I think you have to go for it. Yep, and that's exactly what he does. And down comes the Wurmcoil Engine.
Divine Offering brings Sean up to 26. I mean, it does something.
Gains him some life, but still double token from Ollie. The card is just such a beating because it requires so much to deal with, so many resources for Sean to expend in. Against a beatdown deck, you expend all those resources, you just have nothing left. Also worth noting on Ollie's side is that Mystifying Maze, which could be crucial here, as it shuts off swords going into the late game, shuts off any creatures that are left. If Sean has double burn.
That card is starting to see play, and initially it was kind of very briefly toyed with in mostly decks with Primeval Titan, but hasn't really started seeing play very much elsewise because it's an expensive card to activate. But in a lot of ways, you don't care if a card is expensive if you're stopping a Sword of Feast and Famine from hitting you. Sword of Feast and Famine is just that good.
Right. I mean, we saw it appear a little bit in the top 8 of Worlds, and so that was that like the lifelink one is attacking? I can never tell between the two. Yeah, that's the lifelink one, I'm pretty sure.
Is that another Divine Offering?
Divine Offering from Sean.
Okay.
So we saw Mystifying Maze appear in the top 8 of Worlds in some of some blue-black decks. Like, we've seen it make some appearances here and there, but with the advent of equipment, it's just so strong because you just flicker out a guy, the equipment goes away, and yeah, you paid 4 versus their 2 to equip it, but you're just keeping them off of it. Plus, it deals with like germ tokens from Bone Horde, so it has a lot of nice little.
We got Thrumming Bird.
Yep, Thrumming Bird down for Ollie, and Tumble Magnet as well, and that Thrumming Bird, if not killed, will make sure to continually charge that magnet up. So
and then right there, Thrumming Bird Chalice. I don't know that after sideboard, Ollie has anything to do with the Chalice that's, requires ridiculous mana. Maybe Contagion Engine and activate it in a turn. But it doesn't really matter if he can do things like turn that Chalice. Let's pretend that, the Wurmcoil Engine is dealt with and the Tumble Magnet, is like still doing its work to hold things off. He could have that Chalice by itself activate the Mystifying Maze.
Right.
So for the late game, that Thrumming Bird represents a big threat.
Right. When you have so many expensive cards like you and Ollie's deck, he doesn't have anything that's over the top expensive, but you've got a couple 6-drops, you've got some 4-drops, you've got a lot of 3-drops, and so in his deck, it just gives you the ability to do so many more options on your turns as you're biding your time. Sean asks Ollie how many cards are in his hand and passes back. Let's see. Yep, so Sean decides to Arid Mesa. crack it. Getting his 5th land, and I'm not quite sure what's in Sean's hand, so we'll see what he's going for with that 5th land here.
I thought I saw a Koth of the Hammer in his hand, so it could be that he's looking for, to drop a Koth, eat up a tap from that Tumble Magnet.
Yeah, I mean, Koth of the Hammer is a nice card, but here it's really not going to even do that much.
He's got a Spike Shot Elder as well, and that actually could do some real work.
Elder's good. It'll be able to shut off that Thrumming Bird.
Yep. Elder comes down, says goodbye to the Thrumming Bird.
Yep, and he just decides to main phase away that Thrumming Bird and make sure no shenanigans take place.
Yeah, I might have done that after combat, because probably he could maybe get a tap from that Tumble Magnet out, maybe.
It's worth trying.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason to not at least try, but he opts not for it, I guess. And for 6, there's Contagion Engine.
Oh, man.
Killing off that Spike Shot Elder, making the Goblin Guide a puny 1/1. And are we going to see Ali serving with that token here? Or is he... No, he's just content to sit back on it.
Yeah, no reason. He doesn't have to worry about it.
Yep, he's got the time. Teetering Peaks off the top for Sean Misko.
Now, 2 Divine Offerings that are out of Sean's deck already. One thing Ollie has to know is that most people are not going to go more than 2 or 3 Divine Offerings, so his artifacts are pretty safe. There's a Koth.
It looks like Koth is going to be good. Granted, it'll still just get Tumble Magneted. That Worm token can start smashing into Koth, but we'll see what Sean is able to maneuver here. So yeah, he untaps the land, and it's going to go to his combat step. We'll see what Ollie does. I think you have to tap it down. So he, Teetering Peaks the Goblin Guide, and you have 3 counters on that Tumble Magnet. I see no reason to not expend one. And you can't really afford to block with your Wormcoil Engine this turn, because you want to attack that Koth. So you're gonna just, take 3 from the Goblin Guide.
Wow.
All right, which will drop Ollie down to 9. Ollie flips up Everflowing Chalice, not a land for the purposes of Goblin Guide, and passes right back. And yeah, Ollie is perfectly happy serving in for 3 on Koth. Now he can proliferate twice using Contagion Engine, which will take care of that Goblin Guide nicely up his Tumble Magnet.
Yeah, he's in such, like, the catbird seat, as my grandpa might have said. Like, that Goblin Guide is completely dead on the table. Once the Contagion Engine starts working, I mean, one of the things that's so exciting about this is Contagion Engine seeing standard play in this standard. That's awesome.
It is awesome. The Limited Bomb, some people call it the best card in Scars of Mirrored into Open, and it's certainly showing you why it's a good limited card here, as it takes away Sean's creatures and uses some cool constructed tools. So, I mean, Sword comes down for Sean, but that's not even really going to do that much. Mystifying Maze is on Ali's side, which could negate it if he wanted to, but he doesn't even need to. He's got Tumble Magnet and Contagion Engine, which is going to keep refueling that magnet. And he's... Yep, alright. So...
Equip to the Goblin, and in response...
Yep.
Dead Guide. Oh, he's not happy about that. Shakes his head. Oh, man, you saw it.
You figured me out. There's only 1 minute left in the round, though, so we don't know if Ollie's going to be able to close in time. He's got this game on lock, I think, for the most part, but the question is he actually going to be able to win it in time, which seems not likely unless there's something coming up top. And Mystifying Maze on the mountain. A good choice. Proliferating twice on that Everflowing Chalice. Pretty nice.
God. We were talking last night about Proliferating Chalice, and it's just really absurd.
It really is quite powerful. So Ollie attacks down Koth here. And
what do we have
and that's another Tumble Magnet. He's going to pass the turn back.
That was a Tumble Magnet?
Tumble Magnet, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And here's Thrumming Bird. He's going to pass the turn back just in time for time to be called. You're going to hear the announcement here in about 5 seconds. But I don't think Ollie's going to be able to close in time.
Time is up. Players, time is now up. First, active player, please finish your turn, and both players with a total of 5 more turns.
And unless there's some unknown time extension, I believe that Sean is really, really excited about that. Oh, boy.
Mystic good here, but still, it just doesn't really do anything. I mean,
Get a Bone Horde, get another blocker?
Yeah, I mean, you'll get some blockers, sure. I mean, you can still just be tumble magneted down.
Okay, yes, it's verified. There is no extension, so they are on turn 0.
Yeah. So Ollie, let's see, even if he draws Wormcoil Engine, plays on his turn, I don't even think that'll kill Sean in time.
Right. Sean isn't looking to win with whatever he gets. He's looking to not die to some really great draws from Ollie.
Exactly. And
I mean, he wants to win, but I don't think that he expects he can close.
Right. I mean, save of drawing. He doesn't have the opportunity to draw a triple lightning bolt even because he only has 2 draw steps left. So Sean is not winning this game. It's on Aintrazi to see if he can close it. And looking at his deck list, I don't think he can.
I mean, what's the best he can do here?
Tezzeret Agent of Bullets could be the one way. If you play Tezzeret, Up It, and then Ultimate, I think that might be the one way he could do it.
Let's see. What does he have? Does he have a Inky out there at all? I don't see an Inky. I see a Mystifying Maze, and I see Colored Mana. So we're going to be on turn 1 in a second.
Yep, so this is turn 1 for Aintrazi.
He can deal 4 damage this turn.
Right. I think he has to find Tezzeret if he wants to win this game.
Is that a Preordain?
I think that was Dark Slick Shores. Creeping Tar Pit. Okay.
Chalice for 1. He's putting out some stuff.
But yeah, that's it. I think he just passed back there. We made some gesture. That was the good borrowing a dice gesture. But so yeah, Sean's gonna serve in for 4. Ups his chalices, ups his tumble magnets. There's all kinds of good things. With the double tumble magnet for Aintrazi, there's one hidden off screen you can't quite see. With the double tumble magnet, it means that Sean basically has nothing going on. But now we're in turn 2 of extra turns.
Yep.
I think if Ollie, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 artifacts. That's 12 points of Tezzeret. If he draws Tezzeret and ups it, I think he'll be able to kill Sean exactly. Is that Spike Shot Elder? That could be a problem. Oh, that's Goblin Guide. Okay, not such an issue. If he draws Tezzeret, I think he can kill Sean exactly, but he has to draw Tezzeret on his next draw step. I guess, so even that Creeping Tar Pit will take care. Yeah, the Creeping Tar Pit even takes care of some more life, but it's not going to be quite enough. So Ollie has to find Tezzeret this turn, I think, to be able to do enough damage. Do you think you let Sean attack with the Goblin Guide there to try and thin any lands on top of your library away?
What is it equipped with? Is it equipped with a sword?
It is equipped with a sword.
A Feast and Famine?
Body and Mind.
If not with Body in Mind. With Body in Mind, it's just too much.
All right, so it looks like Drowned Catacombs down for Aintrazi. Did he find Tezzeret? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, equip. Or activate, I mean activate his
Creeping Tar
That
Pit.
says to me that there's no Tez there.
Alright, so he taps down the Stoneforge Mystic.
That's a definite no Tez, if you ask me.
Attacks for 7. Oh, he can still cast it post-combat.
But I mean, he would have cast it pre-combat, I would have imagined, right? And then come in for 12?
I don't think you go -1. I think you go +1 and then ultimate. Or even, you don't even have to do that. With Contagion Engine, you can just play Tezzeret and then immediately ultimate it if you want to. Which is pretty absurd. Wow. Proliferate with Tezzeret is something fierce. Play Tezzeret down, proliferate twice, bring it up to 5 counters, go -1 or -4, and still have Tezzeret in play for the next turn to -1 again. And you can also Thrumming Bird it, so you could ultimate it 2 turns in a row, which would be pretty absurd. But proliferate indeed. All right, this is Ollie's last shot here. Let's see if he finds what he's looking for. I think that looks like Dark Slick Shores to me. Creeping Tar Pit perhaps, but it's not going to be good enough. Ollie can serve in for 7, and I'm sure they're going through the song and dance of, will you concede to me? No. Will you concede to me? No. Looks like they're taking a draw.
Looks like it to me.
Yep. So the first,
and it's a draw.
First match of the tournament we get to watch, Aintrazi versus Misko. Draw.
Yeah.
Ali had a pretty dominating position, but wasn't able to do it. I didn't see enough of game one to know if he could have played faster, or if maybe there was a point he could have conceded but didn't. But
when I was over there earlier checking out the match ahead of time, it looked like they both were kind of having fun, but just being a little bit like taking their time here and there. So I think honestly that pace definitely might have been the case. So
yeah, that